Welcome to the Hype Attack Podcast,
where we weigh in on the latest in nerd and pop culture hype.
We are the
We're the excited conversation we all have with our friends
about the nerdy things we love
and geek about.
We are the Hype Attack. I am the hype.
What's up, everybody? This is Doug. Welcome to the Hype Attack Podcast. I'm here, as always, with Isaac, Rudy, and Jermaine. I can point now because we got cameras.
Yo.
So,
What's going on, Doug?
what's you know, not much. Up to my
Fuck your
normal-
niceties. What's up, Doug?
I was going to say, up to my normal no good deeds.
Hell yeah, man. Hey, you know I turned lanes without a blinker, bro.
Oh, don't. Oh, man, that's
What's
that's pretty villainous.
What's up?
Before we get started on our topic, though, as per usual, we got to go through our nerd actions for the week.
Nerdy nap.
Anybody want to start? How do we nerd out this week?
I finally got a chance to watch Extraction 2.
Oh,
So I finally
Damn
got,
it.
got,
That's on
got
my
down to
list.
that.
Shit.
So I mean, it was pretty good. Like of course, if you like the first one, I will say you're gonna like the second one. But
Is
all
he
in all, it
shirtless
was a
in
good
this?
run. He throws an axe.
Oh, nice.
No, we'll go off on a tangent. Continue, Jermaine.
The action is good. The big extraction moment is good, and the ending was solid. I was very, very thrilled with the outcome of the movie.
Okay.
Right on.
So we'll see. But well, I was gonna say something, but it would be a spoiler, so I'm not gonna say anything.
Please don't.
But
Please don't.
We
go
don't edit
watch it
anymore.
Go watch it now.
Hold on a second. You telling me that the actual title of the movie figures into what he's doing? Like there's an actual extraction,
Oh yeah,
not just
Oh, yeah.
one but two of them.
Multiple extraction moments.
Extraction 5, the visit to the dentist.
Wow.
Shoot, but it's the same thing with like the John Wick movies. Like you know what you're gonna get.
That's cool. I like a good action. Good fighting and some shooting.
Pichum pichum.
It's swell.
It's, super neat. Rudy?
Me and Doug went to the Pins and Patches Expo this weekend.
I'm sorry I missed it.
Yeah, we got stickers.
I'm not. You're annoying sometimes.
Sometimes.
I'm just kidding.
Sometimes.
No,
That's
like we went to the Pins and Patches Expo. We came back with stickers.
Yeah.
Go figure.
All
It
the
was.
stickers.
I was very impressed with it. Right? Wasn't it like bigger than? Yeah.
I absolutely thought that if you threw a rock, you would never in a million years hit someone who made pins and patches professionally, and they managed to gather a very large subset of booths of all different people making their own patches and pins.
That little industry, whatever you want to call it, like it's very big, especially with stickers and pins. Like I know a lot of artists that's on like the social medias, like Instagram. I feel like they sell more stickers than they do artwork.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just one of those things. I feel like a lot more people, as in Isaac's water bottle here,
Dude,
is a perfect example.
I get so excited, by the way, when I fly FPV drones and I order my shit and I'm like, ooh, stickers. And I have all my shit covered in stickers.
I finally covered my hydro flask in stickers. I had it for the longest time, and I saw everyone doing it. And I had this thing like I have stickers, but it's like that permanence of like, do I want to put it on
Yeah.
something? And especially something like a hydro flask that I could lose.
Oh.
I've always thought like, oh, maybe someday I'll have a cool desk or like a garage wall or something that I could split them on. Split them on. The fuck does split mean?
Stop drinking. My niece
stick
was
them
like,
on.
oh my God, did you put a sticker on top of another sticker? On top of another sticker? I was like, yeah. She's like, oh,
Stickerception.
evil. Yeah.
But yeah, no, the Pin and Patches Expo was really impressive. There was a lot of different art styles, a lot of, of course there was anime, but, video games and horror and all sorts of other like random things.
I'm sorry I missed it. I really wanted to go. But
I hope to go next year if it's there at Anaheim again.
Oh, that
for
was going to be
sure.
my question. Would you guys go back?
Yeah.
That was
Oh,
my-
yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
a cool couple hours, in the afternoon.
yeah, obviously I love stickers.
Yeah, I paid $5 for a butterscotch Snickers bar. It was okay.
Where was it from?
$5
I think the guy
dollars?
said it was from India. I wanted to like check that out because I don't know if he really knew his things. There's a place in LA that has like imported snacks that I want to go to. I'm gonna price that out.
I don't remember where it's at, but it might be Japan or something like that. But they have like I'm exaggerating on the numbers, but like 50 million different flavors of Kit Kat.
Yeah. Is it
Impossible.
Japan or is it
Impossible.
China? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know,
I don't
like,
want to
it's
mix
one
them
of
up.
'em.
Because I think what it is the word Kit Kat sounds like, God, is it good luck? Oh, I should have looked all this up. I want to say the word Kit Kat sounds like good luck. So it became
Yeah.
a thing where you would mail someone a Kit Kat to like wish them either good luck or thank you or something like that. And then so it became such a cultural phenomenon that they came out with all these different flavors.
We need some of those flavored Kit Kats out here because
Oh, yeah.
them things look bomb.
I have
These fun facts and more on the Hype Attack podcast.
Yeah, let's not go off about
I have to
snacks.
special order the sour patty Kit Kat flavor. And it's starting to get expensive. Starting to get expensive.
Was that?
I'll hook you up with one after
What
the
did you
show.
say?
Isaac, how'd you nerd out?
Sour Penny? Man, I did a few things. I definitely started watching a few new things on streaming stuff. By the way, to my anime fans, I'm gonna start watching Bleach.
As you should.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
know.
going to hold you to it.
I don't know where the hell you've been.
Not watching Bleach.
Apparently.
On Netflix, I watched Tom Segura's new special called Sledgehammer. And if you're a fan of Tom Segura, he fucking ages like fine wine. I can say nothing else about it other than go see it immediately. Sledgehammer on Netflix. Speaking of Netflix, I started watching Black Mirror. I finished the first episode today, and it was starring Anne Murphy from Schitt's Creek and Salma Hayek from just Salma Hayek being Salma Hayek. And they sort of like if you watched Black Mirror's, was it not Balderdash, Bandersnatch? They did some like real meta thing and they like ran with it in this show, which was I thought pretty clever because it kind of spoke on like how your phone's listening to you and formulating algorithms and stuff. Anyways, Black Mirror, it's always good. I like it. And the reason why I missed the pins and was it
Pins and patches.
Pins and Patches was because I had a little videography gig. I don't do it professionally. I'm not great at it, but somebody paid me a couple dollars to go do some like fucking videography stuff. And that was fun
Might as well.
to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Experience.
and
You can put that on your resume. I did a gig.
I don't have a resume. It's like pest control and OnlyFans.
You get it tattooed on your ass next to the smiley face.
I guess I don't have space for it. I have other things that are supposed to go on there. Okay.
Pros and cons.
Weird to segue from there because I wanted to say today is my nephew's birthday.
Speaking of ass tattoos,
He won't ever listen to this, but I just wanted to give a shout out that it's my nephew's birthday. He
Happy
is
birthday.
10 years old. His name's Andre, and he's the Miles Morales to me, the old fat Spider-Man.
We want to wish you a very right cheek birthday. Is it right cheek? Is that the happy one?
That is-
Yeah, very right
oh,
cheek.
do I have to set that up? Okay, nobody knows, and I'm not going to show it on here. You have to go through my. Oh, that's not even on my Instagram.
excuse me.
What an ass.
You are set. The camera's on you.
So nobody knows this, and if you DM me, maybe I'll show you a picture of Steve-O with my tattoos. Years ago, I got some tattoos on my behind cheeks of a smiley face and a sad face
I'm sorry, your behind cheeks.
on my behind cheeks.
The gluteus.
You
They're
heard
just as good as his front
The
cheeks.
glutes.
Move on.
Gluteus minimus.
What are we talking about today?
We're
Move on.
nerding out.
Move on.
Real quick, I did all sorts of. I finally beat Diablo 4, which was super
No
fun.
shit. How many
Yeah.
hours did you put into that?
I don't even know. I did it really casually. I mean, most people had that campaign beat quickly. I was kind of just going
Bullshit.
through it. I
You
did a
have
lot
to
of
know
little
your
side
hours.
quests and stuff. What?
Yeah, I said bullshit. You have to know your hours.
I don't know. I've never been one to. I guess I can go like type it in or whatever and see what the hours.
Hit
are.
pause. Go check it out.
Yeah. Then I started playing a new VR game called Synapse, which is fun. It's like first person, or it's like a roguelite, and you got a gun, you got telekinesis powers, which is like, that's the best VR thing when you can start like lifting people up and shooting them or grabbing a thing and exploding it. Like
Oh,
that's,
physics is fun.
Yeah.
Messing with physics is fun.
Yeah. Then I watched this anime from 2006 called Paprika. I think it was a lot of Inception. Inception got a lot of inspiration from Paprika, and it was a really good movie. I suggest.
Yeah, there's a handful
watching
of
that.
other movies that get inspiration from anime.
Yeah.
Like and Get Out that did the
everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
everything. Yeah,
Because
but
like
like
the
what
general audience probably hadn't seen it, so then a director can come out and be like, "Look at this cool shit I'm doing." Please don't
Anime
watch
does
anime.
cool stuff.
Yeah.
Matrix, you're welcome.
I finally started watching this last season of Doom Patrol, and
wonder
I mean,
if I
it started last year. I think they're still doing one more, or they're like the second half of this season. But I finally started watching it. I love that show.
There was like a weird hiatus?
Yeah.
I gotta go back and see if I've finished it or not.
There was zombie butts.
No, damn
Instead
it.
of the were butts, there's zombie butts now. Which I love the fact that they're just dealing with like butts. Because you know what? In these superhero things, it could be anything, right? It is ninja, zombie, robot, aliens. Who cares? Just make it butts. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They're fighting something. Anyway, the other thing that we did this weekend is we got together to celebrate an episode, the 10th episode.
A milestone, yes.
Yeah.
10 episodes all
For us.
together.
Yeah, and we went to a new brewery that's here in Anaheim called Villains Brewery, and it was good. Good beer, good food, and the setting. Like they had a lot
Good
of
artwork.
murals. Yeah,
Good-
the
Great
artwork was
artwork.
really,
murals
really good.
of villains.
So
Yeah.
one dude, he was presently spray painting Vader.
Yeah, on one of the doors. So
Shit, I think he wrapped it up in like 2 days.
If
Yeah.
we hadn't already posted those pictures to Instagram, we'll put those on the Hypotech
Yeah, I haven't posted my
Instagram.
Oh yeah,
Because
for sure.
I know Doug's posted some pictures. I don't know if we've done it to the main account yet.
oh yeah,
Just so
I
everyone
put
can
them on
see.
mine. Yeah. Anyway, so while there, we realized a great topic of conversation here on the podcast would be villains.
Fairies.
Villains.
Oh, villains.
Villains.
I thought we were talking about fantasy stuff.
No,
not
no,
fairies?
just villains.
I wasn't
Yeah.
prepared.
Yeah, very
I guess we'll talk about
straightforward segue. Like nothing fancy there.
No, I like that though.
Villains, love them, hate them. What do you think?
I love him.
There's so much to like. I was thinking about villains a lot these past couple days, and there's so much to it. Like there's a lot like, especially with the different types of platforms or genres that we're dealing with, where like a normal movie. I say normal being like a singular movie would have that one good strong villain. But then when you get into IPs or franchises or comic books or something like that, you're dealing with a villain that's going to be there, that's going to be present. And I think it's a very different kind of thing. I just thought that was really interesting. And I think that's why when we brought up talking about villains, my first thought was instantly like comic book villains, Luthor and Joker and stuff like that, because it's like these are villains that are there, they're present for years versus a singular story. But sometimes those guys stand out a lot too. But
Hans Gruber, Billy the Butcher.
I was about to say Gesundheit, but I'm sorry. Was a little slow on that one.
But I mean, like one I thought of that maybe people don't really think too much of as a villain really would be like the shark from Jaws,
Yeah, no, that is a good villain.
like scary, taking people
Oh, yeah,
out.
there's some-
I mean, it's not
some
necessarily
good-
evil or anything like that, but it was like that's a scary villain.
Because it had a purpose other than to just eat.
Can you really call that a villain as opposed to a force of nature?
Well, so oh man, I'm not ready for it.
I know.
Yes.
I saw Jaws on the villains list I was looking up earlier, but
have you seen Jaws?
It just gave me the question. Like, can you really call that?
Okay, so
Have
I
you
looked
seen-
up the definition.
Okay.
According to dictionary.com, we have two definitions. One is a cruelly malicious person who is involved in or devoted to wickedness or crime. So that's like your very standard villain.
Person.
Or a character in a play, novel, or the like who constitutes an important evil agency in the plot.
Okay.
Sharks
So-
are people too.
That's
So that's where something like Jaws, the shark, becomes a villain to that story.
right.
But the fact that he was also killing indiscriminately kind of makes him a villainous shark. He wasn't just eating.
Oh no, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
yeah, Bruce.
For
Was
fun.
it revenge or something? Did they ever establish, or am I just
No,
like applying?
no revenge.
Just straight up killing. Which I guess that's a good
Murderous.
question. Do you guys like your villains to just be straight up evil, like just killing for the sake of killing, or murder?
It depends on the story.
It does.
And how he interacts with the hero. Like it's the
Why is it
hero
gotta be
and
men?
villain make the story. But it's just one of those things. I don't need him to be just this murderous character that just does things just to do things. But you just have to have some type of oomph to your character to make me look at this guy or whatsoever and just be like, that's menacing, or just straight up evil and conniving and all that kind of things that make like a proper villain.
Right on. Who would you say is your favorite villain, Jermaine? We'll start with you. That question's going to get asked around, but
No.
one of my favorite
I don't have an answer either. So.
one of my favorite villains as of right now. Like I don't have like a top, but one of my favorites has to be Frieza from Dragon Ball Z, because he's just villainous and mean and just evil. Like he'll destroy you with no mercy, but then he says like the most ridiculous things, or he's like just comedy, like how he reacts to certain things. Like if you watch the Broly the Broly movie, and Broly's dad was there while everybody was fighting and everything was getting destroyed, and he has this the character Broly, like he's fighting the good guys, Goku and Vegeta, and he wants Broly to get stronger, because Saiyans, when they get like emotional or something of
Enraged.
of stress happens to enrage them, they get like stronger. So Frieza's asshole ass was sitting next to Broly's dad, and like I said, while everything was being destroyed, he just pulled out his little evil laser finger and just shot his dad in the chest, and he was like, "Oh no, Broly, look, they killed your father." And Broly just got into this berserk mode, like and just went like ape shit. But it's just that little nonsense shit that he does. I fucking love that shit so much. Like it makes me smile, but I'm like, you're such a little
disregard
bitch.
for his like fellow people's feelings.
It makes me laugh, but like I said, I'm like, you're such a fucking little bitch. I hate you and love you at the same time. So he's definitely one of my favorite villains, and because of him is why I call a lot of people monkeys to this day, even though it's not a racial thing, because the Saiyans turn into these big apes, and he's always looks at, he's like, you monkeys. So it's just one of those things. Like
I've always felt a little uncomfortable with that, especially when you say it, because you say it a lot. Monkey, and I'm like,
you're down, monkey.
Can you still say that?
And me and Doug are sitting back there wide-eyed like,
oh man,
I can't even comment on it.
I don't know, but me and my friend Trey, me and my buddy Trey, we can say that.
You say that all the time too, wouldn't you?
So you bring up something that else I thought about is like some of these villains, they're so evil, but because they're so funny or cool or something like that, you kind of start to like them. Like Darth Vader, right? He's like the great example of like this villain that is a badass that we all like, but he slaughtered children. I mean, like
even more badass, dude.
Like irredeemable stuff.
Who doesn't want to punch a kid sometimes? No, I'm kidding.
And
you watching, Andre? I'll punch you, bro.
Happy birthday.
10 punches is coming.
And I think that's true with like a lot of comic book villains too. It's like there's very few that you actually just like gotta hate this guy, because I mean, they want to sell toys and stuff too. But
Yeah.
or I would even
It's always
think,
the money.
going like somewhere maybe completely different is the heel characters in wrestling, professional wrestling. I think it's interesting because like you go back to older wrestling and the heels like got booed. You hated those heels. But now I think because people have a bigger understanding of the industry, like even the characters that are supposed to be the heels that we're supposed to boo, I think a lot of people end up liking because they're the more entertaining character out there or something like that. So it's fascinating.
Writers of shows and movies have always said it's more fun to write for bad guys, for villains. It's
heck yeah.
The good guys have their rules and stuff. I mean, not to say that villains don't have some rules, but for the most part, like it's more
You
fun to
get
write
to
for
do
the
what
bad
you
guy.
want.
Absolutely.
Like in a sense, when you're writing these things, like you get to live out that evil side of yourself in a sense. Like, what would you do in this situation? Oh, I'll rip your fucking face off, or whatever.
Well, also, you look at something like comic books where Superman has essentially been the same character for, 80 years, 75 years now or something like
Math
that?
checks out.
I don't know, something around that.
That's probably more than 80
Like,
now.
they're not allowed to change him that much or his supporting heroic cast. But villains, they get to introduce one every month, every 6 months or something like that whenever a story arc gets finished. So,
Well, for Superman, it took 80 whatever plus years for him to snap one person's neck.
but I think there was, what's her name? Gail Simone? comic book writer. She did like Deadpool and Batgirl and Secret Six and stuff like that. I think once on Tumblr, she was commenting on how one of the reasons why so many villains ended up being people of color or other marginalized groups is because villains were the only new characters that they were allowed to create, because you couldn't, it was very hard to create a new hero. But again, every other week or every other month you're creating a new villain, and as the writers and the people behind the scenes became more diverse, the characters that they created were more diverse, but that was mostly villains. But then you also end up with that awkwardness of all the villains are people that look different. And then of course then you get into like, we need to start making heroes, you know, more diverse too. But
well, I do have a question, since you asked about, you know, favorite villain. Does anybody have a villain that they hated when they were younger, but now that you're older and you watch, you know, this particular thing or read this particular thing, you're like, I kind of like that guy, but he's just a villain?
Damn it, that's a good question. I wish
I have.
Fuck.
it wasn't really like younger to older, but when DC introduced Superboy Prime, he was such a whiny little bitch. I hated him. And he had like Superman's power, so he was very powerful. He was like being a dickhead. But then when I read that he was created to basically represent the whiny fanboy that complains about everything changing, I was like, oh, okay. I kind of like Superboy Prime now.
Because wasn't Superboy Prime, like, he's supposed to be more powerful than Superman because he's from that era of when Superman had like the ridiculous,
he was
overpowered.
he was from a world where I think he was the only hero. And so he was this Superboy on this planet, and he read comic books that like the comic books he read were all these characters that were on Earth 1 or whatever they're calling it at that time. So he was from Earth Prime, where there was just him. And so he was super powerful, and he read all these comic books. And then so when he got sucked into the main Earth of the DC universe and saw everything was different and changing, he got all mad because they weren't the comic books that he was reading. And I was just like, that's great. That's a good meta villain right there. Ballsy of DC to just like,
right?
We're going to make a character that represents all the people that are in our comment section. And he's going to be a whiny bitch. But he ended up in like the Sinestro Corps with like Cyborg Superman and like that huge, awesome Green Lantern story. And but
I want to go a little back to, you know, when you were like defining villains, right? I think what makes a good villain is, yeah, it depends on the story, right? But overall, because good guys have their set rules, their code. I don't kill. I don't whatever. I think what makes a good villain is that they are almost like a perfect opposite. I mean, barring like Flash, Reverse Flash, you know, not that on the nose, complete opposite. But the whole idea is that juxtaposition of contrasting but complementing them, so that it's not that villain is supposed to be there to challenge either their to provide a physical challenge or to provide like a mental or moral challenge, you know. So just like in generally speaking, I think that is what makes a good villain, is where it's written in such a way where it really does challenge that good guy. You know, test their morals, test their strengths and everything, exploit their weaknesses. However that may come.
Yeah, like a perfect example would probably be Joker.
Oh yeah.
Like, he's one of those villains that you look at, like in my world and my universe. I know like a lot of people look at probably like Darth Vader, you know, or maybe the Joker, and that's probably where the scale is. But it's yeah, you know, you had Vader that, you know, or Anakin at the time, you know, he killed, you know, younglings and all that stuff and what he did. But the Joker, man, like, he's on another level. Like, he's just, the things that he does and the reasoning behind what he does, it's like you don't understand to a degree, but until he, you know, shows you why he did that sometimes. But just him just murdering Robin with like the crowbar, shooting Batgirl, and it's just these things. And what he did to Commissioner Gordon, showing him pictures, of his daughter, all this stuff. Like it's that's on another level. Like he's like, for me, I would probably say he's the top of the top.
Well, Joker kind of gets a double whammy because he's so evil and just generally a bad person, and like he's like random and good. But it also fulfills that like second part of what makes a good villain is it allows for good storytelling.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's kind of the thing. Is like you can have an evil, crazy, villainous person, but if he doesn't contribute to the plot in an interesting way, then he's kind of worthless. Like he might be cool in our heads or something like that, but Joker, I think a lot of the what do they call the villain collections? Rogue Squad, Rogue.
His Rose Gallery.
Rogues
Gallery.
Gallery.
Thank you. I think a lot of the Batman's Rogues Gallery, all of them allow for great storytelling, which will, I think, make his villains always just top notch. Sorry.
There's some villains for Batman they're like sort of redeemable people, like Mr. Freeze, and Penguin's more of a mobster. So they're like I would chalk them up as like bad guys, maybe for scientific mishap reasonings and things like that.
Well, in the world of comic books, in the world of comic books, like they're not trying to take over the universe of the world like so many other villains are. This is very much more grounded.
Which is what's interesting. What I love actually about Batman's villains is that it's not this like world-ending catastrophe. All these world-ending catastrophes. With all these movies coming out, I'm sort of tired of like, and this one thing's going to end the world. I'm like, yeah, it happened across the world. It was going to end a bunch of times, whatever. Even speaking of Doom Patrol, they sort of like go, yeah, the world's always ending, right?
Yeah.
Whether it be zombie butts or ultra dimensional beings. But the thing about the Joker, what makes him fantastic is not just that he has no line. It's because that's a big sandbox to play in, right? You can do anything and everything, but it's that he chooses to do things so meticulously, specifically to push that protagonist's boundaries. So
he wants to get them to the brink. Like he wants them to get to that edge of whatever it is that their code is.
So
he wants to see.
They being Batman and being his main code of not killing.
Yeah.
And to quote, the Heath Ledger Joker in The Dark Knight, he's like, if you want this to stop, you're going to have to break your one rule. You're going to have the killing. And kind of showed like, people, I don't know if it's the reason why he's called the Joker, but, it's sort of a play on like, oh yeah, you have your, I'm not going to do the fucking accent, the person impersonation the whole time, but it's like society has all of their rules, all of their morals, and he shows them how much of a joke that they are for thinking that they're safe and their little made up constructs and stuff like that, and then turns it on its end and shows them that they're wrong. So what I love about the
chaos is always like just right there.
It's just right there.
I feel like most
people are fighting over toilet paper in 2020.
Oh yeah, like most Batman villains.
Get a bidet.
Do you guys think that most Batman villains had just that one bad day
that just like turned them?
Yeah, that just made them just go.
Probably, because I can see Gotham being that city.
Yeah, it'd just be one of those things that they just went through something and they're like, I can't take this anymore.
A little bit of an offshoot. Speaking of like the one bad day, you guys ever seen that Michael Douglas movie Falling Up?
No.
Or is it just Falling Down? Falling Up is a Shel
It's Falling
Silverstein.
Down.
Falling Down. You seen it?
Yeah.
Oh man, talk about one bad day. That's a good de-evolution of just a person.
So, sorry, was there more you wanted?
Nope.
Okay, sorry. So you brought up how the Batman villains have like a redeemable characteristic a little bit to
Some
it.
of them.
Yeah. I guess that's like a good question. So prior to this, I had asked my friend about villains, and he brought up Hannibal Lecter, which, Hannibal Lecter he eats people, right? That's scary. But he also brought up how I guess
Some women would think that's a plus.
But he also brought up how, I guess in the later works, they revealed his backstory and how I think Nazis made him eat his sister and he found it delicious and this and that. And it kind of...
Where did they reveal that?
It must have been in
The show?
books
In the show, right?
or in shows or something. Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know. My friend was just saying this. Anyway, it brought up...
Born in
I guess
blood.
it caused a lot of issues because he went from just this evil guy that ate people to like, oh, there's a psychological damage that happened because of Nazis, and I guess maybe a little more sympathetic. And
It's not his fault he's eating people.
I guess that's the question is like,
Should they created a kink in
like
him?
should the villains
I got a bite
or
you could eat.
does it make a better villain if there is sympathy or understanding or
And I wrote that down also alongside with like an origin story for a bad guy.
yeah, Rudy and I were talking about the Joker movie, which I loved, but I also hated the fact that they made the Joker something that we kind of understood.
I think there's different types of villains. I mean, if I want to generalize it, because they are these villains are specific to either their property or their good guy, their hero, you know. But so just in generalities, there's a few types of villains, and there's not like an actual list or nobody studied it. But I was just sort of thinking about it. There's like the villain that you sympathize with, like Thanos. We go, you know what? I kind of get it. You know, there's like, which kind of goes alongside with like the one who's doing it for revenge. For whatever reason, the good guy slighted them. That would be like Iron Man 3. You know what I'm talking about?
That movie.
Oh, when Iron Man
Tried to erase from my
when he
head.
named the villains in the beginning of the movie, and where he was going through anxiety and all that stuff, but it was like the 3 people or whatever that did him dirty, or that he did dirty or something like that.
Yeah. He just sort of like passed off this one guy played
Yeah,
by
they
Guy
passed
Pearce.
off all these people, but it was so dumb because they had the Mandarin in there was supposed to be the villain, but then it was revealed that it was the 3 people that Tony Stark was talking about in the beginning. I was like, oh my god,
who apparently
yeah.
breathed fire.
Yeah.
But no, so there's that, and then there's like your Joker characters, which are like the anarchists, the being bad just to be bad for fun because it feels good. And then there's your delusional people, you know, maybe like Hannibal Lecter, who had a tough childhood, so he's going to eat people, or you know, I don't know, I can't really name anybody off the top of my head, but like just somebody who's just altogether just delusional. Maybe they
I do
think
have a
they're
good
the
one. I
best.
do have a good one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Unbreakable.
Glass.
That's a good delusional
Mr.
one.
Glass.
That's
Mr.
a
Glass.
great one.
That when I found that out, that's probably one of his best movies. M. Night. Don't you touch Avatar ever again.
Oh fuck!
but
Talk about your villains.
so anyways, I know he made all us fans villains, but Unbreakable, that whole movie was just a masterpiece. I'm gonna call that movie that. It was a masterpiece, and when you find out, like, you get these 2 guys' stories, and you're sitting there and you're steady just watching it, and then you're sitting there, you're like, oh man, he's making this guy realize like who he really is, you know, even though he had these moments in his life, but he didn't think anything of it, you know. He just thought, you know, I was just doing these things like it was my adrenaline, you know, when he ripped the car door off, you know, and all these things. And then he started to like work out, and he started to put the weights on, and then he just kept putting the weights on, and you know, and it just,
That's a fun scene, by the way.
yeah, like it's just one of those things like where you,
Bruce Willis delivery.
it's just a perfect, like, not simple little story, but it was just done well. It wasn't, you know, no, you know, big special effects. It wasn't like a Marvel movie,
Yeah.
you know, anything like that. But when he shook his hand, because, you know, that was what the heck was his name? Like,
I forget. But Bruce Willis's character.
I know he was like a security guard, but I don't
Yeah.
remember what it was. But anyways, he could like bump into people and, you know, kind of feel like what's
they're good or bad,
Yeah,
if they done anything.
like what's happening. You know, like did they do something or yada yada yada.
He'll have a
when-
seizure if he taps Doug.
But man, when he touched
So
him,
many handles been jizzed on.
shit, it was just one of those things like where you just watch it and you're like, oh my god, he did all that
What a twist!
just to find you because of his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of what he was going through, you know, Mr. Glass, and it was just one of those things. You know, and he was like, you know how I knew I was the villain. It's like what the kids called me. You know, I was like, that's so fucking perfect.
Yeah.
But he's one of those villains. Like you're just like, damn, like that was heavy when you found out what he really was.
Because for him, he was like, you know, he had all his weaknesses, but he was a really smart dude.
Mm-hmm.
And when he discovered Bruce Willis, I mean, not that this is like an unbreakable breakdown,
Yeah.
but it was that once he discovered that person existed,
Mm-hmm.
I guess because he thought like
if I exist,
Yeah, then my counterpart
then
has
there's
to exist.
somebody else out there that's
And
Completely opposite.
And
Yeah.
his delusional mind, he's like, because we exist, we have to be good and bad. And I was like,
and it was
"Whoa."
just that,
It's a good villain.
man, money movie. I'm gonna watch that this weekend.
That was Samuel L. Jackson as Elijah Price. Bruce Willis as David Dunn.
There you go. Thank you, Rudy. Quick on keys.
Wait, don't you mean Samuel L. Jackson as Anthony Davis? No, I'm kidding.
Wow.
Sports joke.
Wow,
That's a
sports
Lakers.
analogy.
So, Rudy,
Anyways.
we haven't heard much from you. What's your thoughts on villains?
You know who I really like, who I think gets kind of a raw deal? Lex Luthor.
Oh, yeah.
Because
He's next on my list.
He's
The little crybaby.
yes, but he's smart.
Man in red capes.
He's
Flying in the sky.
he's almost on Batman's level of intelligence.
Yeah.
Like just
And money.
genius wise. He uses that to make money, and just
Same ego.
the ego, the inferiority complex that he has for Superman, and just the fact that he's a villain, which that 90% of the time they have to lose. Like as much as they challenge the hero, as much as they get him to that point where they're about to break him, the hero always, most of the time, usually has to come back and win. So he's constantly throwing bitch fits like be Superman, like just. But his character is so fucking compelling.
Otisville.
In like the animated series, like I love that version of Lex Luthor. The Smallville version of Lex Luthor was pretty
Smallville,
good.
the money.
He's not my favorite, but I think he's definitely up there.
Honorable
with,
mention.
like, potential, like to be just a really good character. But if you take him out of the Superman universe and like just build a story around him, I think it would be a really compelling story.
One of the few DC villains that I think could transcend just Superman. Like, I think almost any of the DC teams or heroes could go up against Luthor and it'd be an interesting story because Luthor is not above hiring help or like bringing in someone else to do his work for him
Or becoming president of the United States.
yeah exactly. And so I think that makes Luthor really interesting because you take some of the other villains and try to put them into another comic or something like that, it doesn't always work because they are meant to be opposites of each other.
Oh, yeah.
But Luthor is someone that I think you can put in against any of them.
He's just one of those characters like when he looks at Superman, he's like, "How dare you fucking exist?"
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, and that's the
Like,
thing
how-
about him. Like, how dare you exist, and then also how dare you exist on Earth? He's like, if there was any Superman, it should be me.
Yeah,
like
That's what I was
I'm
gonna say. How
so
dare you
borderline
exist and
delusional.
how dare that you are not me?
Yeah, the audacity. But it's just one of those things. This is also my question with Lex Luthor. If Superman didn't exist, would he be a villain?
I think in the capitalistic scum of the earth kind of way, yes. I think he would do whatever it took to make the money that he'd have.
Be completely self-absorbed and
But
Because
no.
I see that he always
The
like he
sweatshop kind
wants
of
to
villain.
do.
Yeah.
He wants
Thanks,
mankind to
Apple,
be
for
better.
iPhones.
Like he wants mankind to be better, but he wants mankind to be better because of him.
Yeah.
Not
He wants
because of
notoriety. Like an
mankind.
ego.
and him. Yeah, like
Yeah.
he wants that. But just because Superman exists, like he can't have that.
he wants mankind to be, ascendant, but at the same time, he wants to be the apex of humanity.
Yeah, he wants to do that, and that burns him so that he's
And-
not that.
And I think that's why Jesse Eisenberg,
Yeah.
his portrayal of Luthor, I know it made a lot of people mad, but because of that, I
I
think
love
it kind
an
of
eccentric Luthor.
well, it fits
Luthor.
because we live in a world right now with young, tech guys that essentially want to be the hero that saves the world, that changes the world, the way we look at the world. And like that's what you were just describing, like Luthor wanting. And so that portrayal of him, I think, just fits in today's storytelling or in today's world. You know what I mean? You know
Oh
what
yeah,
I'm saying?
definitely. Like,
Yeah, it's fine.
Package for
definitely,
modern times.
definitely.
He definitely for me as far as like favorite villains, he definitely was an honorable mention, and I wanted to do like at least for me like a top 3, and I wanted them to be significantly different. And Luthor again, he was up there as an honorable mention, but for me, somebody that has like a big ego and it's like he's mad because that Superman isn't him is kind of silly and on that borderline delusional. But for me, like I mentioned before, I love the Joker. What's that?
Oh, no, I'm waiting to see your.
I love the Joker for all the reasons I mentioned before, because he really does anything and everything he can do. It crosses those lines, and he doesn't have a lot of money, but he outsmarts the world's greatest detective. You know, and Al, in the Injustice storyline, it's spoiler alert. He makes Superman kill Lois and removes that reason for Superman to be good. Fuck, you know, and Superman's supposed to be unbreakable. But so Joker's my top one, and he's fun, just altogether fun. I love eccentric villains, and then opposite of eccentric, but a more you can sympathize with them. Thanos. No, not because of his Thanos chopper.
The comic book version, or the cinematic version.
The cinematic version, because of that reason.
That vexes me.
I know. I'm sorry, but again, like I said before, and it's no surprise to anybody that I don't read comics, and I'm not familiar with like those comic book storylines. So I'm familiar with either what Wikipedia shows me, what you guys tell me, or what I'm seeing in the movie theaters. But as far as like the villain in that movie, it's still an interesting depiction of a villain of Thanos, because of his reasoning of like, yeah, we're overpopulated, and what are you gonna do? You're gonna make money, you're gonna grow food. He's like, no, I'm gonna do everyone a favor, and it's kind of semi delusional, but we're gonna get rid of half the people.
But then all the people bang, then you just bring all the people right back.
Yeah, and I like the subsequent shows that kind of show what everything has been like mid snap and then post snap.
That's been my favorite part of all the post in game Avengers or Marvel stuff. But I will say, Thanos in the MCU has an advantage over, I think, any villain that we're going to see in any of the comic book movies, is the fact that those two movies were essentially about him.
Yeah,
he was the main character, because they weren't introducing any new heroes. Like we already got Iron Man's story and Captain America's story and all that. So we got a lot of development for him just in those two movies, and they had teased him. So again, he wasn't some new person that we were just getting introduced to. So it allowed for just so much more, and it made him really stand out. And it was very well done, and it is an interesting character and
well portrayed by Josh Brolin. And lastly, thirdly, Magneto.
Yeah.
The reason why I love Magneto as a villain is because, other than Thanos, where you're like, well, okay, there's some delusion and there's some ego in there. Magneto, as far as I'm aware of, you really can sympathize with him because of his Jewish backstory of being in the concentration camps and surviving it. And, X-Men is sort of, what's the word? It's like a parallel. It's not a cautionary tale. It's sort of
an analogy for race relations.
Exactly. So it's an analogy for racism, right? So not only does Magneto have to deal with like literal racism of being Jewish and having been in a concentration camp, but also being a mutant.
Yeah.
So it's like a double whammy, and you look at it, and when you watch his story depicted in the Fox movies, like when he's played by Michael Fassbender, I love the emotion that he conveys and the conversations and the arguments that he has with his dear friend.
Yeah, I mean it's always gonna be that perfect example of like kind of wanting the same goals.
That's it. Yeah,
but different path to those.
I love the fact that
and to be friends with your protagonist.
Yeah,
like
but it's because of who Professor X and Magneto were based off of, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X.
Oh, fascinating.
So that's what they're...
Wow.
So
I got chills a bit.
Magneto is by any means necessary.
Yep.
And Professor X is that, Martin Luther King, the hope, the dream, we can. And that's why I like those two characters. But Magneto is one of my favorite villains of all time, just because of his origin story, where he came from. And it's the fact that he's looking at the mutants like my people, AKA like the Jews, we will never let that happen again, no matter what. Yeah. And it's just one of those things I'm like, like that hits me in my heart.
The shame about it all is, we're approaching 100 years since the concentration camps. I mean, not quite yet. I know we're like at 80 something.
But did they happen really?
Wow.
You son of a bitch.
I knew it.
Wow.
I knew he would.
Way to get us flagged right there.
No, you know what? Total jokes. I can't believe people even doubt any of that shit.
Yeah.
It fucking enrages me. Continue.
But, we're approaching the point where it's like they're going to need to retcon or figure something out to have the fact that Magneto and Professor X are still alive.
I think they are doing it in the comics right now, where there's I don't remember technically what it is, but there's something that's extending people's lives, like when they die within the Marvel universe or just the X-Men. But I know Sinister did something where he has clones of all these people.
Oh, yeah.
So
I think
when
we've
they
talked about
die, they can
powers.
come back and all this stuff, and they have their memory. But it's just one of those things. Like, I always thought, just a little short story about a new age Magneto. I always thought that it could be interesting if you wanted to bring Magneto into this day and age and not have him linked to the concentration camp, but have his family, of course, they were in the concentration camp, like the legacy, yes, he's still a Jew, but you guys remember Bishop was in the future.
Oh.
And he had the M,
Yeah.
on his eye. They got branded, being mutants. So I always thought that it would be interesting if Magneto was in the not particularly that same, but if they brought the mutant quote unquote concentration camp and he was put in there and he had to liberate all his mutants, but
Brotherhood.
but he also has that legacy thing that happened to his family, and that's why he's like, we can't have this happen again. And it would kind of be cool to see Magneto with an M on his.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good take on it. Yeah.
That'd be kind of Marvel. Come at me, bro.
Yeah, because you're gonna get to the point where you're doing so many like these reboots. Like, how many times is X-Men gonna be rebooted? And everyone's gonna go, "What's that? What are Nazis?"
Yeah, I hope. Maybe.
I mean, you hope
Some of
people
our history books.
forget, and like examples will never come back again. But
And the villain
Then
this
you
whole
hope-
time
yeah.
was the internet.
I saw a T-shirt today that just said, "History sighs, then repeats itself." I think The Onion was selling that. It's good stuff.
Nice.
I really wanted to try to think of more villains beyond the comic book world, but comic books just have great villains. And I think one interesting thing that comic books allow, because we do have these decades and decades of stories, is they can allow those villains that are just the alternate reality, the evil alternate reality. Because like that wouldn't work like in a normal movie. I mean, I guess they've tried it, but it's not the same as there's an evil Superman or there's an evil Batman, because these are these heroes that we know for so long. And so to get an evil version, like we know what to expect. And so like that's one advantage that comic books have, but also like, because again, we have all this growth of the characters, the cities that these people make. So I think about like the Court of Owls as like such a good comic book villain group, because
I know the Court of Owls, but you might want to preface.
Yeah, no, I'm going to get
Okay.
into it.
I'll shut the fuck up
right now.
I'm sorry.
Because after all these years of learning about Gotham and learning how much Batman and the Batman family like know every nook and cranny of Gotham, they the Waynes have been part of this world, like, and then to find out that no, there's a whole other level of Gotham that even Batman doesn't know about, and it's the Court of Owls, and there's a history to it all, and it's like this secret thing, and like there's always like folklore, like fairy tales told about the Court of Owls.
I love that aspect, by the way.
Yeah, and that's something that I think works specifically with comic books, because again, we've had decades of learning about this city, and then to find out like, oh, I mean, like I said, they could do something like that in a movie, but it doesn't hit as hard as when we find out like, oh, there's all this going on that even Batman doesn't know about. Like that makes it kind of fun.
I thought they were going to cover that in The Batman.
I think that's
They're setting it up.
there was rumors that was going to be the plans for the second Pattinson movie, but they're
Have they
also
confirmed
bringing
it?
in the Joker. Yeah, they're working on that. And then what's his name is returning as the Joker.
Irish fella.
Yeah, because he was in the last scene, right, in Arkham talking to the Riddler. So I think they've confirmed he's coming back for the Joker. So I don't know if they're going to do a Court of Owls. It would almost be interesting, like if they plan on doing multiple of these movies, to like start seeding that court in, because I think that's how they work the best. Other like classic villains, like the Wicked Witches from Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch.
I wanted to bring that up too.
My mom was so scared of her. I think she still is.
Yeah, classic villains were really interesting because they were just bad to be bad. They didn't, for the most part, as far as I'm concerned, they didn't really have a backstory. Well, other than afterwards they had Wicked, the Broadway show,
they
movie.
provided the backstory.
And I was like, okay, there's a backstory. I get it.
And Disney's kind of doing that now. Or they did it the once with Maleficent, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's those things where you go like, I don't know if I need or want a backstory of this villain where it's like, well, now I sympathize with them. You know, it's an interesting take, but I don't know if I need that often. Like if you can't tell it in the original story, it feels like a money grab to me.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Definitely.
But those classic
Disney
villains, though,
money grab. What?
they can hear you across
Yeah, we're
the
close
street.
enough. Yeah, we're close.
Jermaine?
Too close.
Shit, man.
But Disney had some. I mean, like I think about Scar a lot. Like, man, Scar was a bad dude. Killing Mufasa.
There was this
Sad scene, Simba.
this little kind of like fan theory about Scar. So you know how he kills Mufasa. Spoilers, but when Simba came back and went to go talk to him, he's messing with the lion skull, and everybody thinks that lion skull is Mufasa's skull. So it's one of those things like
That's
that's
just to make Scar even
shit,
more
that's kind of
fucked
dark.
up. Yeah,
I'm
just
like,
a little dark.
damn. They ate him, or the hyenas did.
But going
That's
back
crazy.
to the classic villains too, it's like even like back in the cowboy days, like the black hat characters, you know, just being bad to be bad.
Yeah.
Do we have any?
Oh, the cowboy, Tombstone, Johnny Ringo. Johnny Ringo. He was magnificent in that movie.
I'll be your Huckleberry. Do we have any contemporary villains that are like bad just to be bad? And does it work? You know, not necessarily where there's like no backstory, but it's like, hey, I'm this person and I'm going to be your bad guy.
Oh man,
Because I feel like nowadays people are like, no, it's going to be grounded.
What
and
about
we're
Ben
gonna
Stiller
need-
and Dodgeball? No.
No, I mean, I think that goes even beyond the villain discussion. I think we've talked about or I don't know if we've talked on air, but even like comedies now, I think people expect comedies to have more. I think Apatow really changed that. Where like,
Yeah.
you can't just be fucking funny. Like you gotta have,
I just
gotta
love
have
silly
the romance
slapstick.
and story
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like, which is a shame. But to answer your question, I mean, I haven't been reading a lot of like modern comic books. I'm sure they're still introducing just some like,
What do you guys think
Bad to be
about
bad.
Smith, Agent Smith?
I wanted to bring that up as far as like non-comic book stuff, because I wanted to bring up Smith and Hans Gruber, solid villains, honorable mentions.
Sure, I just love Agent Smith in that Matrix movie. Like he was one of those things that added so much to that movie.
and he eventually kind of got disillusioned with the program, right? Which is always kind of a fascinating thing with villains, especially when the villains are more of not the main villain. They're like the main antagonist to the story, but they're not necessarily the main villain of the world. And then when they start like questioning even what's going on,
Yeah.
that's always kind of a fascinating.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Story
angle too.
thing.
That's why I kind of liked him too.
This rogue program, like, originally built to take out Neo, and then he again starts questioning himself. I love.
And it's crazy because Neo was the one that freed him.
Ooh, that's right.
So
Thank
it
you,
was- he's like-
Mr. Anderson. Do you hear that, Mr. Anderson? It's the sound of inevitability.
So
That's a rap.
shut up. Where do villains
no, it's
like Hans Landa from Inglourious Bastards, and then you mentioned Bill the Butcher earlier, like those charismatic people that aren't really bad to be bad, but they're self-interested. They're doing stuff that's going to put them in the best position and either for what they believe or for what they want. Like where does that fall into the category of villain?
I think that works so well as a story point because a lot of us have experienced someone like that in our real lives. like not necessarily killing people or whatever like that, but we've all, I mean, I don't want to say we've all, but like I think a good amount of people have worked with that person that's like absolutely ready to throw you under the bus so they can get that promotion, or you know, slowing you down somehow so they can look good. And so when you take a villain in a movie, and even though they might be doing something on a much grander scale, but it's just for that personal gain, I think it's something that we can all relate to in a way.
With a character like Hans Landa, is he was hired to do his job. He's a really good detective, essentially. And he's hired to do this job, and it's to hunt down the rogue Jews. And you can just do the job and do it, but this motherfucker enjoys it. It's delicious. He savors those moments. He revels in the findings of all these things. Very good villain.
Again, someone I can relate to being in construction when you get an inspector. And there's the inspectors that are like, oh, we're going to do the thing. But then there's the ones that are like,
Hey there, boy.
let's see where you guys messed up. And they pull out the measuring tape and it's like,
In
half an inch off.
they're all German.
Yep. You're going to tear up this whole concrete pad and report. And that hasn't happened to us, but it does happen.
In the pest control realm in which I'm in, we have the ag department, the agricultural department, and I've encountered one of them when they inspect you and they're, you know, all about the rules and regulations to the T, and they have zero personality. Like, I understand they got to do a job, but you know, like, hey, you're a person. Like, how's your day going? Just zero reaction, nothing. I'm like, whoa, you love this shit. Them and meter maids, fucking dicks.
Say so. A good.
They're just doing a job, man.
Fuck right off.
They're doing it too well.
Fuck right off.
Hold on. I'm like, you? No, I don't. Sorry.
Oh,
They're just doing their job.
we do work for the city of Newport Beach, and then we have a little placard that we put up in our windshield, like, "Hey, working for the city of Newport Beach." We got a ticket literally placed on top of that.
Oh man.
She saw the placard and was just
Right off. Yep, pretty
But
much.
they're just doing their job.
Well, you know, we
dog.
called and it's like the
Well,
city.
that's a
they're-
true villain.
Sorry,
apparently,
I'm
they
just
don't even
doing
use
my
like
job.
city employees. It was like a contracted like parking thing, and they
Fucked.
they don't care. Like their answer was like, anybody can make those signs. It's like, yeah, but
Oh god.
we're
Yeah, fuck that
literally
person.
in like a service body like pickup truck. Like we're across the street working. But
true villain.
so that's a good question. Anyone have any villains in their real life or experience someone that you would absolutely like? This is a villain, either to your own story or I guess to like the world.
Oh man, I work in retail. I had a store manager who was that level of petty, but you know, you go from the coworker who will be like, well, how come he's not wearing his company mandated laminated name tag and I have to wear mine? Like, you know, from that to the top of the food chain where we're like you're walking through the store and like, I don't like the way your shoes tied. I think I won't schedule you for the next 3 weeks. And we'll see if that financial hit will improve your attitude. And that I had a store manager like that, and we celebrated when she so it's not a woke story, but when she was transferred to the East Coast, like it was parties, like babies were being conceived, like it was that level of celebration.
Oh, I bet that's
like
horrible.
the Death Star had been, you know, destroyed. Level of celebration.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Cue that
Banging
celebration
helmets and
music.
stuff like that. Yeah, that's awesome. Toppling her statue. you commissioned a statue made.
Where's the small voice? Ding dong, the witch is dead. Witch is dead. I'll do my own voice effects. Ding dong, the witch is dead.
Oh, that's a good story.
Wait, let me put my shoes on my knees. Like, okay.
I guess, like, lucky me, I haven't had too many like villainous people. When I used to tutor at the high school, there was a couple older teachers that were just so stubborn
Oh man, there's some teachers that's
and
had it out.
egotistical.
Yeah.
And like,
They've been there too long.
yeah. And like, so me, like being, you know, at the time I was like 18, 19 working there and like coming in and like, hey, can we change the way we do this? Blah, blah, blah. And like, just the way they treated me and stuff like that. And it was just like the back and forth, like, hey, you're still doing it this old way. Can we change the way we do this? No, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you're screwing your students. Like, but you know, I mean, I get it. I was like literally 18, 19, like just graduated. Like, there's a better way to factor. Fuck off,
know-it-all
kid.
piece of shit.
First, you know, usually every time it'd be like, no, I work here. I'm not a student. And the worst was that some of them were teachers I had because it was the high school we went to. So it was like,
Not weird at all.
Hey, Mr. So-and-so, I know just last year I was your student. Now I'm here to tell you to fuck right off and teach these students a better way to do things.
Like, hey, Doug, you're like, no, it's Mr. Gentry now.
Yeah, even though all the students call me Doug, I made the teachers call me Mr. Gentry.
What about you, Jermaine? Do you have any work villains?
No, not really. Like
Name names.
elementary school, like I probably say before I transferred to Jordan, I think I was in third grade. We had a calendar, and we had to write little short stories each day.
Ugh.
And I was always behind on my calendar. You know, at the end of the month, you have to turn it in, and then you start your new month. You know, where you would just kind of journal and write in there. So my third grade teacher, because I was always behind, like it was just one of those things. You know, you're writing every day. You know, and there's just sometimes you don't know what to write. But anyway, whatever month I was behind, she would let the whole class. Oh, it's Mr. February is behind.
Oh God.
She would always say like, Mr. April, do you have like she? It was just one of those things like
Public shaming.
where you were just like, if I saw you in the streets,
If you were on fire in the streets, I would piss on you to put
she
you
like
out.
in third grade, I was like, I'll throw an egg in your face.
Oh man, if only teachers like knew how traumatic some things can be. Villainous bastards.
Or
but
parents.
but those
that
of,
one uncle.
But those of our teacher friends out there, we love you guys.
Oh yeah, we have a few friends that are teachers. Yeah, I'm sure you guys are great. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're sure you guys are.
If I saw you in the street,
Oh man.
Oh man, video games. We didn't even like touch on video game villains. I mean, you have yours. We've heard the story. Yeah.
Bowser, favorite one. There you go.
Yeah.
Favorite. Okay. M. Bison, fighting wise, like difficulty, trying to get past a villain.
Oh.
It was probably M. Bison. I hated him, but
I
at the
still
same
hate him.
time,
man.
I'm like in Street Fighter 2, that damn head stomp. That shit was so.
You can make me PTSD and like how many times I sat there with my Super Nintendo like trying to beat.
Man, you don't know how many quarters I wasted in the
Oh yeah, I would-
arcade.
yeah.
But
I I wish death on Raw Julia so hard. I think I actually caused it.
damn.
Oh,
M.
sorry.
Bison.
Sorry,
but-
M. Bison.
But
Rest in
probably one of my favorite video game villains, because I probably talked about this game so much, Metal Gear, but it was Liquid Snake. I just love the fact that like there's Solid Snake and then there's Liquid Snake, and it's, you know, they're these genetic babies, but
peace. Hold on, what are they called? Huh? What are they called?
oh no, I'm just calling it what they're.
The project that birthed them. Gotta say it. I love saying it. I say
The-
it every day, or I see
I want to
two
hear
little
Rudy. I
kids
want to hear Rudy say. it.
walking by and they're like throwing shit. I'm like, ugh, les enfants terribles. The terrible children.
Because yeah, I don't remember.
That was
like,
the name of the project that
Oh yeah.
Ooh, Doug, feel my nipples like that.
that birthed our,
But it's just, I just like that Solid Snake got all the prominent like DNA, you know, to make him like that super soldier, and Liquid Snake got all the throwaway, you know, trace, all the garbage stuff, and he hates the world because of what they did to him.
Oh.
But I mean, it's so he's
It's a good
probably
villain
one of
origin
my-
story.
didn't they? Wasn't that like a reverse Uno? Didn't they tell Liquid Snake that he got all the recessive genes?
I
and
feel like it's
they
one of those
told him
things like they messed with him.
that he was the one that actually got all the dominant genes, and Solid Snake was the one who got the lesser. But they told him, so they're.
Was this revealed in the first one, or was it later on?
I don't remember. All those games run together in one giant movie in my head.
Because I know he really died in the
Yeah,
first one, so I don't know if he. Now I got to go back and play this game over.
it was. I think it was one of those things where they revealed it in like one of those Kodak conversations, but they didn't have like the actual who was talking. It was like one of those behind the scenes, like the puppeteers were commenting about, does the dominant one still think he's the.
So now I got to go back and
The
do a
beta.
deep dive into this game. Big Boss.
I'm trying to think video game villains. Even though how many games I've played, I mean, I haven't beat a lot.
What about Sephiroth?
All right, what makes a good video game villain for you, other than like being hard to beat? Because that's usually the point.
I mean, that's what differentiates a video game villain from any other villain.
Yeah, like a traditional villain. Like
is
this
that
is
you
difficulty.
you're adding that fact that you have to actually beat them. Wow, and some of the games have just as much storytelling as a movie or anything else like that. So a character like Sephiroth, has all the stuff that would make him a villain in a movie, but now you also have to beat him. Fortunately for me, I was so leveled up. Like when I got to that final boss, it was pretty cake because I've been doing like grinding up and everything else like that. And it was 2 stages, right? There was a couple stages. The Sephiroth fight. It was certainly 2 because I think you fought like big giant version and then you went down to the 1-on-1 with Cloud.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was another station. I just remember those 2.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But for me, I mean,
Might take
Final
it to
Fantasy VII, the weapons,
Lighter than I
the 3
remember.
weapons that were around the world, those are like the big final bosses. I guess not really villainous because I don't know anything about them other than they were hard as hell. But I want to say, I've played a lot of World of Warcraft, and none of those villains really, like Gul'dan, I guess, kind of stood out.
Could anything from Warhammer, like anything from Destiny.
Warhammer 40K is hard. I mean, there's not really villains because they're all horrible. I mean, like the Empire is not the good guys. Like, in a way you could say like Horus and the Heresy, like they were the villains, but I mean, not really. I mean, the Chaos Gods themselves, I guess, would be villainous because they're the gods of chaos. And super interesting, like going through them all, like Nurgle, Khorne, Slaanesh, Tzeentch. I just had to throw my
But if I had to
weighing on
choose,
the table right there.
It's lighter than
like
I
if I
remember.
had
Are
to
those names?
choose
Or are you having a stroke? Sorry.
a video game villain that has a pretty good backstory as well as difficulty, I will go back to Street Fighter, would probably be Akuma, because he's one of those characters that's like, there's these things that are forbidden. These are the teachings that you're not supposed to do. These are the things that, these things could kill you. And he went the route, because of their style, there's a, quote unquote, dark side to their style, like Star Wars. But he went the dark route and he mastered all that stuff that they said, like, oh, you shouldn't do, this is going to kill you. And he went off and did that thing and came back and murdered everybody. But his goal was always to push himself to be, the best, to be great, whatever it takes. So he challenged himself, like he's, like the opposite of Ryu, like or even like a Goku, like he wants that fight. He wants to test himself. But if you're not worthy enough, he's just gonna murder you. And he's just one of those villains that I have to put some respect on his name because he's one of those guys that I really like. Just the fact that he went that route that they told me that I couldn't do, and that I would possibly die. That
any world that has that kind of setup of like teachings and forbidden teachings, and that villain that goes that route, it always just makes for kind of an interesting tale.
That sort of sparks the question: Are there any favorite secret villains, or not secret villains? Like they're not outright the villains, but they're kind of like the underlying villains. What pops out of my head is like in episode 1 and 2 of Star Wars, it was kind of the Jedi Council that they were like, oh, we're the good guys. I'm like, yeah, but you're being a dick to this kid. And like Qui-Gon was sort of the one who was like, no, this is how, the Jedi teachings, it's supposed to be. And I don't know what's going on over here. So is there anything that stands out in your guys' minds of any villains that were kind of like, again, not right out front, but when you think about it hard enough, maybe they weren't designed to be the villains, but when you think about it hard enough, maybe in like today's lenses, you go, holy shit, that person was a villain. Like another example would be Cobra Kai, where LaRusso was kind of the villain.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Nothing really stands out. I mean, that's a great question.
Thank you. I just thought of it now.
Yeah, no. And your Star Wars example is a perfect one where, like, as far as the story goes,
I got my headphones.
They were the protagonist, but in like the world, looking at it, especially backwards. I would say, not for me, but in general, going back to Warhammer 40,000, I think a lot of people, when they first approach it, just assume the Space Marines, the Empire, the Imperial Guard, the humans are the good guys. But like once you like actually read anything, you'll realize they're fascist assholes. Like, and you quickly realize they have, the 12 different factions or 9, I don't know, and so many. None of them are really, really good. I mean, like the Necron kind of are, but they're giant killing robots, so it's hard to look at them as like the good guys. The Tau are kind of good. Same thing. They're like this alien force killing a bunch of people. But yeah, that would be my example of like once you get past the surface and your desire to like want the humans to be the good guys.
Yeah,
they're absolutely not.
Because at times, you think of villains as like, again, per what we're talking about earlier of like the classic villains, the cowboys, the black hats, right? You knew that was a bad guy because they're wearing the darker colors. You knew that's a good guy because they're wearing the lighter colors.
Yeah, or the 80s when it was like the Russians. And then then you get into the Middle Easterners. It's like the really like easy stereotype.
European accent, bad guy, boom.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's I love that either the writers of whatever books, comic books, movies, and shows are creating a more of a gray area. So it's not just like here's the good guy and the bad guy. It's like no, they're both sort of like dancing around that middle line, which is what makes for good television because you're sort of cheering for the bad guy, like Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah, I was going to use another like superhero example.
Please do,
because I'm really surprised we haven't brought him up as far as the MCU goes. Killmonger. Killmonger was certainly a villain that was like
that's a fantastic example. Yeah, he was wronged.
It's like, can you stop? And I'll high five you. Like, yeah, I mean, absolutely wronged. And then ultimately, like what made him so villainous was obviously he was going after our hero, Black Panther, and the way he was trying to get the power of Wakanda and stuff like that. But his motivation for villainy outside of that story was very much like,
he very much was wronged.
Yeah.
It's a good pull.
Down with the colonials.
I'll have to go with maybe
colonizers.
Avatar, The Last Airbender, maybe like Zuko, because I don't know if you guys.
Yeah,
he's one of those that kind of
from
he went from bad to
good,
lovable and likable.
But why was he bad though? Because his father
was a douche,
treated him like a douche, and he shunned him.
Oh, he did.
And he shunned him, and he threw him out of the Fire Nation. And therefore, and the only way he could come back to the Fire Nation is if he brings him the Avatar or defeats the Avatar.
Yeah, there are a handful of other villains that turn out to be not so bad, and they're kind of cuddly, like Vegeta.
Oh, he's.
I love this. Or and
That's
here's
my
a
boy.
Here's a pull. I forget the guy's name. He's the big sumo guy in the Jackie Chan show. He was like one of the henchmen.
Oh,
do you know what I'm talking about?
The Jackie Chan when the
show.
The cartoon. What was his name?
You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't
talking
remember
about
his name.
the Jackie Chan Adventures, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jackie Chan Adventure when they
cool.
had to go. Yeah.
One thing that I mean, we'll talk in a different show about is, but this idea of villains that I think become so popular that they start turning him into the anti-hero, like Harley Quinn.
I was just about to say, yeah.
Yeah, like, and I mean,
I don't know.
It kind of sucks. Like I said, we'll talk about anti-heroes. That's a whole nother topic. But it is interesting. Like when a villain becomes so popular and like there's marketable to it, like that desire to like we could turn him into kind of a hero, which is a shame.
I mean, Harley Quinn's a fun one though because she's just an eccentric character that's just entertaining as hell.
Yeah,
because they don't have any rules and you kind of enjoy the game.
But was she really a villain, or was she just in love with the madman?
Yeah, that's a great point because her becoming that anti-hero, there was that an interesting way to tell it because it is questionable whether she really was that way or just so in love with the Joker and brainwashed in a way or manipulated into it.
He exploited it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I haven't read any of the comics with her, but DC did introduce what's her name, Punchline.
Yeah, Punchline, the Joker's new
They
boo.
brought back like a villainous Harley Quinn kind of character in Punchline because it's like they needed to fill that spot.
Toru.
Is that him?
Toru. Yeah.
Toru.
Was he a villain?
Yeah, he was one
He
of
started
the
off as a henchman. and
henchmen.
then- That was a good ass cartoon.
And I always love those where like the bad guy becomes the good guy, and that's fun. But you know, it's because more of their origin story kind of
yeah,
made him.
they just started off wrong, and
They
yeah,
actually
just
it was
had to see
nature
the
versus
right-
nurture. You know. Oh, you know what? Ultimate villain. Before we wrap this up, you ever seen? Was it the Bad Seed? It's
The
this
Bad Seed.
It's this old timey movie.
Been called the Bad Seed. Sorry, go ahead.
Ew. Drink water. Eat some watermelons.
I didn't say I tasted like the Bad Seed.
Pineapples. I'm sorry, not watermelons.
Whatever.
The Bad Seed, like the Black Sheep.
I think it was called the Bad Seed, but it was this little girl, this cute little girl, blonde hair, blue eyes, and she was just very evil. And it was she would do all these things and kill people. But it was that whole idea of like there's nature versus nurture, you know, and that sort of informs like all of the villains that we're talking about is were they born bad and then they get the chance to redeem themselves and become good, or were they always bad?
Yeah, and we didn't even touch on too much horror stories and that.
Oh, yeah.
No,
and that's
yeah.
where that nature versus nurture really comes out. We're running out of time.
I avoided the whole horror topic because that's its own genre,
Yeah.
and we're Halloween's around the corner, so I think we'll save it for that.
But
Wait.
Hold
Sorry.
on, hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Before we go,
No, wait.
I don't know why.
my thing is
Hold on.
Hold on.
to answer my question about the villain that I hated when I was younger, but love
yeah.
now. It's a cult classic. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon.
How dare you?
Show Enough is the most over the top, ridiculous. Like it's a corny movie about this, kung fu kid looking for the final level, aka the glow. But it's just one of these things. Show Enough was just one of those villains that I didn't like. But as I got older, I started watching. I like Show Enough better than Leroy. Like he's just one of those villains that's just. I just love everything about him. How he dresses, his over the top, and the cheesy kung fu. But just man, like everything he does, like the dialogue, like for that era. Barry Gordy, The Last Dragon. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
I'm writing it down.
In that same vein,
you're fucking not.
I will write it down.
you
gotta
son
flip
of a bitch.
The back.
Video evidence.
Look, I'll do it. We're right here. Can you-
In that same vein, everyone's familiar with
What was it called?
Sherlock Holmes, right?
Yeah.
And his villain Moriarty.
Yeah.
Have you guys watched the new one? The relatively new one with
Benedict Cumberbatch.
I was gonna say Benedict Cumbersnatcher.
Jesus Christ.
But I think that's yours. This is closer to his actual name.
Oh, Doctor Strange.
Yeah, there you go, Doctor Strange.
Con?
The Moriarty in that one is fucking bonkers and like really well
Oh,
written.
fuck, you're right. Yeah, that's a great villain.
Like, have you watched that?
Yes.
Jermaine?
Great fucking show.
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
Ooh,
Like,
that's a
if I
good.
could recommend one, that's a really well done series. That's all I had.
Nice.
Good villains.
I have spoken.
We have spoken.
Yeah, we could probably just keep recording like randomly, like, oh, the Dominion in Star Trek.
Yeah.
I mean, like we can keep going and on.
Star Trek.
I know we haven't touched on Star Trek.
You
We
gotta wedge
haven't
that
even
one in
got
there.
into the board.
I
We
fucking
haven't
love
got
it.
into the board.
Oh,
We
yeah,
haven't
the
got
board.
into all that stuff.
Yeah.
The main villain's that
One
girl that
interesting
broke my
thing,
heart so many
when
years
they brought
ago.
when they started Star Trek: The Next Generation, the Ferengi
Oh,
were supposed
fuck.
to be
You're
the
going to
new.
Star Trek. Jesus Christ.
They were supposed to be the new big baddie, right? Because in the timeline they had made peace with the Klingons.
I know how to get it to stop. Go ahead.
And the Ferengi.
Just so ridiculous.
Go on, I'm listening.
No.
Sorry.
His ego's getting
I'm just playing-
smaller.
I'm just playing on the buttons.
But I mean, in all seriousness, I thought it was funny that they created this alien race that they really thought was going to be like, oh, people are going to hate them. They're going to be this big villain of the story. And people thought they were ridiculous. And then so they ended up making the Ferengi kind of a more ridiculous thing. And they weren't the big baddies.
Were they originally meant to be?
Yeah, they were supposed to be the
Supervillains?
new Klingons of that series. So if you look at the first seasons of TNG, like when the Ferengi would show up, they were very like kind of more evil, and then they slowly turned him into the more like capitalistic, like the rules of acquisition people, and then
How many-
DS9 turned him into like just the fun Ferengies that we all know and love now.
How many rules of acquisition are there?
A lot, right?
I was asking because I don't remember.
Oh,
I know there's
mean,
a
I think it's
shit
one of
ton,
those. I
though.
think it's one of those jokes that just the number keeps going higher. And
You want to
higher,
sit next to
something
them and
like
enjoy
that.
each other's nerd Ds? The hype attack, where we're able to show you that everything points to Star Trek.
Yeah, it should.
6 degrees of separation from.
And before I turn into a fucking villain listening to more Star Trek stuff, I'm going to have to start going down the Star Trek route. I really,
Absolutely.
yeah. But not now.
You know, there's been 14 movies.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Keep going. And that's as good as place as any before we all turn evil. To wrap the show up, check us out on TikTok, on Instagram. If there's anything that we missed, please hit us up in the comment section. No one's done it so far. I want Rudy's beautiful voice to join us in this, outro section, but so far no one's been commenting. So hit us up in the comment section. DM us, like, rate, review. We're on everything where podcasts are found. Douglas,
Yeah, my usual message of
did I wake you up?
yeah.
He's already faded
Droning
out.
out.
What's fucking dinner? Let's go.
He was lost in Star Trek.
Sorry,
World. He
yeah, I
was still
wasn't
thinking
talking
about
about
Star Trek.
Yeah.
He's like, huh? Come again?
He's reciting the rules of acquisition. Fuck yeah.
Keep the conversation going. That's what I say every week. I mean, hopefully it's with us, but I hope also that you're conversing with your friends about all the crazy nerd stuff. I mean, there were so many trailers that dropped this week. We didn't even touch on them because I don't know when this episode's releasing. Anyway, converse, talk, and rant. Bitch. Bitching's good. Bitch at us.
I love bitching.
Yeah. We'll read your bitches online. We'll be like, look at this guy's bitching about this.
And let us know, who your favorite villains are, villainess, and all that good stuff. And comment, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff.
Let's do a
Is
good.
it really good stuff?
Yeah, it's
Is it
really good
really
stuff.
good
It's
stuff?
really,
And all that
it's
good stuff?
really
And all that
good
good
stuff.
stuff.
I'm gonna guess
And all
it's
that
really
good
good
stuff. And all
stuff.
that good stuff.
All right,
right,
guys, let's get out of our secret evil lair.
Our
Next.
stinky, sweaty,
Yeah.
evil lair.
Yeah.
The
Layer
hive
of
lair.
clothes.
The Legion of Doom weird skull thing is sinking back in the swamp. We'll see you.
We're the Legion of Gloom. You guys
Say-
checking us out next time.
Same hype time.
Same hype channel. Hey.